All right, guys. We're trying out some new gear. We got a cat here who I don't know why I'm trying a cat and a new headphone and microphone setup. Let me know if you can hear me. We're going to try it all out at once. One-handed at that. Can you guys hear me? Can you hear me on the microphone? Kitty, can you hear me with the microphone? What do you think of the microphone? Can you guys hear me on the microphone? Season's greetings. I bought a new microphone. I can turn it up a little bit too. How's the sound, everybody? Is that okay? Is that good? You can hear me all right? Green, green, it's green, they say, on the far side of the hill. Green, green, I'm going away to where the grass is greener still. Well, I told my mama on the day I was born, don't you cry once you see I'm gone. 'Cause I'm just a traveling kind of man, and then I'm gonna travel on. Everybody now. Green, green, and going away. Hey, well, the cat has left the building thanks to the wife. Um, yeah, so I got the new mic for specifically, compressor mic because I've had several mics that just kind of suck. Um, this was cheaper than the other ones, but it's got better ratings, and I can play with a couple settings, so I can do this too. Let me know. Let me try this one. I can do this one, which is the whole room for like an interview. And I can do this one, which is for like ASMR, which I really hate. And then we can do this one, which supposedly is stereo HD, but I think we'll do this one, and we'll turn the gain about there. Let me know though if that works. This terrible stereo. Yeah, the gain and the volume are all screwed up, so that's probably why too. How's this one sound? Which one's best, guys? This one or or this one? This one or the second one? This one? This one's better. I know there's a delay in things, but oh, now people are saying first. Oh, some people are saying yep. Yes. Okay. Well, I think we're gonna go with this one then. So how's everybody doing? We doing good? I have something that is very rare for me on these lives, which is a coffee. I'm not a coffee kind of guy lately, or usually, but lately I've been thinking. Oh, bring it closer. Yeah. Oh, and I can bring it closer and probably just turn up the volume a little bit so you guys probably can hear me better now. I do have heat, um, but it is, and it's not that cold in here. Um, yeah. Let's see. I mainly wore that because the cat was crawling on me, and the cat, um, yeah, yeah. I think you're right, Ingus. I'll have to play with it a little more where I can tell what the heck is going on exactly. Like I can hear it in my headphones, but it all sounds really tinny in the headphones, like through the StreamYard app. But when I have it running through a different app, like a sound or video editing app, I could hear it pretty well. So hopefully the quality of voiceovers in the videos will be louder and better now. That's what the hope is. So there's that. Yay. I also want to get, I also would like to get, a 4K camera eventually. But I am thinking of teaming up with Chris Lukoff, because he's got all this footage. He's got all this video footage and all sorts of photos and just all sorts of stuff. Yeah, it's the Blue Yeti X. I think you're right, Rico. I think it's the X. I don't know. It's the expensive one. Whichever model's the expensive one. I just didn't want to deal with the sound dock and the all the other stuff. So it's all built in on this one, which that is more my speed. Fish and things with Lando. What's going on? Can't stay, just lurking. All right. What is my perspective on price and value of crossbred guppies versus pure strain guppies? I would say that guppies right now, the money is all in pure strains. Definitely. Ali Strong, I just saw your comment. Yeah. Thank you, Ali. Yeah, that video is painful. I'm gonna leave it in the past though. We're gonna move on today. But yeah, Rico, I am not feeling great today. You caught me. I haven't been for a long time, honestly. Ever since I was in the ICU in Florida. Part of it is just stress too. We've had a bunch of medical bills. Our roof is leaking in 4 places. And my teeth, I still have to spend 15 grand to get the top done. They look awful right now. All my crowns are broken off. So everything I had done from the lightning strike is busted right now. Like it all came undone. And that's tiring. It's taxing. So honestly, the channel is really what I've been putting my energy into, but I've been trying to make content that's a lot more edited. It's a lot more video and images and graphs and charts. Even though less content's coming out, my brain is still like forgetting sometimes too that like, oh, you just thought about that. You did not make a video. Whereas before I would make videos and not worry about the quality. And I think now, as I look back on the catalog of videos, there was a time when our community was small enough and I just wanted to get info out, like sheer amounts of info, and you kind of had to treat it like a podcast. And now I am treating it like a YouTube channel. So there's that. I just saw Justin. Thank you so much, buddy. Have you seen Epistogramoides? No, I've not seen that, but we will take a look at it because I was actually. Oh, thank you so much for using the code. The code when you guys use it. The discount's changed a couple times, like what the actual discount is. It's been 5, it's been 10, but it's some percentage. I feel bad for not knowing off the top of my head today because it's changed several times. And also I think when Aquarium Co-op became one of their what do you call it, affiliates, then I don't know if that changed their math equation at all again. But like when it was just Bob and I, it was one thing, and I think now they're expanding it. So I don't know where it'll be, but it'll be tied. It'll be the best deal that's out there. We're all going to be equal, is what Dan had said. So it's the best discount you'll get, short of some code he throws out there for some special occasion. But yeah, so Aquatic moose. Yeah, you know, that is that is the case. But you guys are my friends, and you guys cheer me up. So as long as I am well enough to do the show and not be like half awake with the fatigue or like super distracted, because I do get distracted. If you see me kind of like glazing over every once in a while, that's usually because like my sciatic nerve is hurting or my lower back. I just got an MRI done. We'll stop talking about me. This isn't about me, but I'll just let you guys know the details of what's the newest thing, which is that I got the MRI done the other night, and I already got the results back, and I've got a 92% degenerated disc between S1, L5, S1, S2, both of those, and 83, I think it said, percent impingement. 10 millimeters of my sciatic nerve down my right leg is blocked, and it's a almost 12 millimeter across nerve. So that's why I can't feel my foot. Half the foot and the other half feels like it's on fire. Okay, back to fish, guys. Do you like Endler guppies? If so, what do you like about them? Cool videos from a cool guy. Hey, that's your name says it all, right? People be like, hey, what's up with him? Well, cool videos from a cool guy. And again, thank you again, Justin Schaefer 3D for the super chat. That I appreciate that. Cool videos from a cool guy. I think that the Endlers are, they're an interesting thing because they're finding now that genetics is really confusing in some ways, because the way that we have hybridized and mixed and crossbred and backbred and line bred and inbred, those are all kind of the same words, but slightly different. And the way that we've done that now, the problem is that the guppies, for instance, that have a balloon body with the glass gene, as it's called, where they're completely translucent, and say they have ribbon fins, which are, the noodly ones, that guppy is going to be so incredibly different than like a wild type guppy that the genetics are far different percentage wise than between a guppy and an endler now. So it's hard to say, like, are we creating new species, or are we creating, or were they different species to begin with? And it's even more so the case with like mollies and platies. They're very similar fish, and their genome is shared like 98.9%. So the things that make them different, while in most species there's all these other things. There's metabolic functions and the size of their organs and which thing grows in which order and all these internal things, and non-expressed genes, what we call dead DNA or ghost DNA, and like redundant traits from the past. Whereas, when we were breeding a guppy, especially if it was from one line and you crossed it with another line that were very, very inbred, so any of the traits that were really like blonde guppies, they're beautiful. They're beautiful golden yellow. That's like the most golden yellow guppy you'll see. And you know what? Let's pull up. You guys know what I look like. We'll pull up some pictures of these guppies while we talk. Also, Rico, thank you so much, buddy. I really do appreciate that. Every little bit does help. Thanks, brother. Thanks, brother. Yeah. And I think that it's good that we are talking about guppies and Livebearers, because to me, they're still going to be the most bang for your buck for breeding fish, just for the sheer volume. You can get, say, 20 of pairs going, and the amount of babies that makes is insane. So, another tip, if you haven't bred for profit before, but you're thinking about it, even if it's just to supplement your income a little bit or something right now, you always want to make sure that you have enough breed stock that there's not like a tipping point where you're going to run out. And it's really easy to go from a spot where you feel like I'll never get rid of all of these to all of a sudden you have a busy week and you get rid of your breeding pairs or a couple of them. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I'm instead of making 200 fish a month with my 20 pairs or whatever, or every 3 or 4 months, whatever it comes out to be, I'm now only breeding. You get rid of say 5 of those and it's like I'm only breeding 150 or 100 little fish. So yeah. Hey, Stephen P, what's going on, buddy? Good to see you. You're late for an important date. Just play with your pocket watch and run down the rabbit trail. If anybody knows what I'm talking about, great. If they don't, you think I'm insane. Moose and Squirrel. I wish we had somebody in the chat named Squirrel, aquatic squirrel. Oh, you know what's funny, guys? So I did a video, a short, and it was so dumb. I said yo mom jokes. So and I've got mumble mouth. Yo mom is so either fat or flat or poor or whatever. So like poor in nutrients, or your mom is so fat. Father Fish and Lucas Bretts have a vacation home in it. Like it's so thick that okay, stupid like your mom jokes, right? YouTube demonetized it before it even went up, which I thought was hilarious. I mean, I don't care. Shorts don't make any money. But all my shorts, I think there's like, I don't know, 1 million views on my shorts now. Monthly, I bring in $4 to $6 on all those shorts. So compared to like $2,000 I have on the rest of my stuff. Okay, blonde. Yes. Back to the guppies. Let's pull up a picture of the guppies too, so we can explain what we's talking about. They can hear you, but I love you too. And have a wonderful walk, my dear. I see how it is. You don't want to walk with Gimpy, do you? All right, hold on. Let me pull this up. Blonde. Okay. All right, now let me get you guys to see what I see. Can you see what I see? What species are similar to Epistogrammas? Well, I can answer that real quick while I pull this up. Any of the Ladiocaras are going to be very similar and easy. Honestly, Crebensis and any of the West African small dwarf cichlids. I just demonetized the stream by saying dwarf, which is also hilarious to me. But yeah, there's like the Lucanusi or Lucanusi. Lucansai. I can't say it. Anyways, Enigmatochromius Lucanusi. That's a really great one that's rare, and you can get it at the wet spot usually. And it's easy to spawn, but also Nanostomus, or not Nanostomus, that's pencilfish. Nanochromis. Those are a fabulous fish to spawn as well. So here, let's pull up guppies real quick. Okay, so blonde guppies. You got your blonde guppy right here. The real yellowy colors. Like this. That's like a pure, no other traits, a blonde guppy right there. And that is like guppies have colors. So, well, duh, Alex. They have red. They have like a fuchsia color, a cyan color, kind of like a printer toner, actually. And this is the yellow base color. And then they have black, and then they have like a white color. But the white color is actually a mutation. And I maybe I should do an episode on this because it's been a really long time since we have done that, like on the actual cells, how they work. But so say you have a blonde guppy and then you have like a black ribbon guppy. Um, so if you had a black ribbon guppy or something, like this, or a black Moscow, even where they're just all black, and what like these, I think that is hideous looking when they look all shredded like that personally. And also, the other bummer is that that's their gonopodium. So you actually, in some cases, have to cut their gonopodium like here, like with toenail clippers or something, so that they can reproduce. It's ridiculous. But any case, so any of these compared to a blonde, the blonde is the most recessive trait. And that's actually why you'll actually see pictures where people have kind of compiled them together, to show the opposite ends of the spectrum. Like that's what's going on here too. But people are looking for breed stock that it's true. So they want the blonde guppy gene. Here, let me pull up. Actually, we can pull it up right now, I'm sure. It's gotten very popular in the last 5 or 10 years compared to how hard it used to be. We were trying to figure it out. When I was a teenager and we started getting the metallic strains of guppies in real heavily, it got really confusing because we didn't realize the iridophores were, which is what makes a fish shiny and shimmery and silver. We didn't realize that was its own gene that had like a luminosity to it that you could control. So it didn't function in an on or off fashion. It had an on or, 1 out of 10, 5 out of 10, 10 out of 10 kind of thing. But guppy color genetics. Yeah, this is the chart I wanted. So if you look here, let's see here. Is this center for you guys too? Yeah. All right. So if you look here, you can see how blonde is over here, and then there's like orange down here. There's another blonde here, but that blonde has color. So when you get the blonde albino, that's that pure yellow we were looking at. And it's not even a true albino, but when you look at the genes here, the little lowercase are recessive and the uppercase are dominant. And so you can see that the blondes or the transparent guppies, they're all four color genes are at recessive. So that line is completely pure if you see a blonde guppy in there. Whereas a black guppy could have all sorts of genetics hidden back in its ancestry, whereas it's all been bred out and they've been very line bred. So they've been breeding, mothers with brothers and dads with daughters, whatever. And then we get into things like in these genotypes and stuff, they've got like the color that's expressed. So like if you have a pink one, you're going to have the two major dominant colors. And remember, there's two genes for each of these alleles or like these sets here. You've got a mom and a dad. So it's really not just 4. We're really kind of playing with 8 inputs. But my point being, if you can sell one of these pure inputs to guppy breeders around the world, that's very valuable. So whether you have a beautiful strain that's a pure strain, as you mentioned, or whether you have one of these like the ones that you can see too that are like the newest red guppy koi. I think they're called kois. Yeah, these super red kois with their eye completely red and everything too. Like they're so incredibly orange slash red. Um, there's a little yellow on there, but I mean, geez, that is a very color dense fish. So I think that the guppies that are pure in their phenotype and genotype, so like what we saw on there, I think those will be worth money in the near future. Coro, what's going on? Um, do blonde guppies have weak genes? That's debatable, but yeah, I mean, whenever you cross a fish too many times with its own kind, for 100 generations or 20 generations or however many it took, it can and Babar, I hear you. I hear you. Yeah, it took a long time to reach that. So yeah, it could have been done right where they were getting guppies from people in Sri Lanka, people in Thailand, people in Germany, and they were mixing very different gene pools. But a lot of times, most of this is going on in like Indonesia, Sri Lanka, Vietnam, Thailand, Hong Kong, and you're getting the same cities of people mixing their genetics. And more variety in the genetics is going to mean that you know there's going to be less inbreeding, because when you're trying to retain traits, whether that's color or whatever, you oftentimes retain a trait like getting cancer at 1 year old for a fish, like tumors or something. But oh, yeah, Thomas, you are welcome. uh but yeah, so oh yeah, Thomas, you just missed that, but here, let me pull that back up. I can't see the chat when I'm pulling this up. I need to get a 2-screen monitor. I need to get a better computer is what I need to get. I need to get so many things. Hopefully in the next year I can start, affording a little bit of this stuff. But the other thing I was going to mention that's going to be worth selling in the coming years, because it has been more and more every single year, is guppies that that have a body that looks like a koi. So that have these big Dumbo ears and the big tail, like these ones here. These and the other big kind is when the female and the male look extremely similar. When the females have color, it makes breeding very, very easy. So, like the koi tuxedos, the males and females look very similar. Um, these uh, these ones in their hands here, those are males and females. Sometimes the males turn out all red, but it's pretty wild. Like that's very new. This did not exist even 10 years ago. um the red guppies did, but I'm saying with the females also expressing, and then with these big fins. So check out, like, you've probably seen like the dragon Dumbo ear metallic guppies. Let's put a few more adjectives in there. Yeah, so like these dragon ones that are starting to come out, they're designed to be seen from above. So people who keep Medaka and rice fish and stuff, they are starting to breed these incredibly beautiful, I think, guppies. However, you got to remember too, again, to get these traits, while they have popped up individually several places. I mean, look at the tail on this one. Um, they are stealing that trait because it's easier most of the time. So that's really what you're paying for a lot of times when you pay $150 for a guppy and you talk to the breeder and they know the lines and everything. You're paying because they know that they got a Dumbo ear from one place, and they got a Dumbo ear from like Germany and one from Cambodia or wherever, and they're different genetics. Whereas maybe the less expensive, like the ones like these, which are very beautiful, but you see how tight the connection point is on the fin there. It's the finnage it's a mutation to make the fins big, and then it's also a mutation to turn them sideways, essentially. And that can occur several ways, and there's kind of a healthier way, which is like this kind here where it's wider. But I've noticed that those thin ones are coming out on lists out of Vietnam and out of Indonesia, whereas Sri Lanka is having pretty high quality ones. You can get them in mass out of Indonesia and Vietnam, in particular, and some of them have some traits that are a little less desirable. And so, where these may be $40 a pair or $60 a pair, the ones that are very well done, and these are just like little examples, like there's another one with a wider connection point, but yet the tail's still huge, the body's nice and thick. Sometimes there'll even be a pattern on the body that's seen from above. And so this is kind of a whole new class of guppies being bred right now. I mean, when you think that a wild guppy is something like these ones here, right, these endlers and guppies, it's pretty amazing. This was the top of the line 30 years ago when I was literally like a preteen and a teenager breeding these things 25, 30 years ago. This was fetching $150 a pair. So was this, like the Black Moscows. Um, So some of the stuff that's out there now is just insane. To see something like this with these fins turned sideways and the spread and then the different colors like a koi. I mean, it's so wild. And so I think that these are, yeah, I think this is somebody pointing out some of the issues. Because the problem is too, for every fish you see, they might be throwing out, two or three. Because of the problems that come with the inbreeding and stuff. Like the split tail, like you see right there, there's a split tail type thing going on. But it's getting more common and it's getting better. And as there's more people who have these, the genetics will drift eventually, and you'll get better versions. But like there's a really, really, really high end one. And this is in Mexico, apparently. So, I mean, there's genetics all over the world. Guppies are breeding all over the world. But here you can see they've got the iridophores that are really shiny. That's what gives the guppy like the silvery metallic look, or kind of that opaque look. And then there's every color now in the Dumbo style. And really, they're more than Dumbo, because Dumbo was the name for, let's see, Dumbo was the name for the guppy, like this cartoon that kind of turned out like that. This is something altogether. It's like Batwing or something. And I don't know. Maybe there's a term for it that I just don't know about. Hold on. Let me look at you guys in the chat, because maybe one of you's yelling at me. It's called this, Alex. But yeah, they're desired deformities. Exactly. And yes, people are trying to basically make koi and betta out of guppies. That's kind of what's going on. And I think my thought on the Dumbo guppies is that if they can get around okay, that's okay. But another thing that you're going to have to worry about is those fins, both in shipping and when you're just breeding them, and they're living their life. If they get picked on at all by any other guppy or any other fish, they then have a bacterial infection. Also, like ick and stuff has like double the surface area to attach to. So there are some serious problems. And one of the problems with the Yeah, elephant ear is a term I've seen before too. But Dumbo is an elephant. That's the same kind of idea. But I agree that like it needs a better name. Um, gull wing, bat wing, whatever. Or just flying, flying guppies. Um, DeLorean guppies, right? Now, the other thing I think is going to be coming up here and worth some good money is going to be, so let's look at betta. Betta, like wild bettas. I think wild alien bettas and copper bettas and stuff are going to be still popular for a while. Like this one here, this alien betta. Look at these. That's just a wild betta mahat chiensis. I keep these right now, and mine look more like this. They got some red and more of like a spacing between this. And honestly, when they're stressed, even the males kind of turn more like this color. Without the stripe, their stripes go the other way, the males, but like this. There you go. There's a good example. But those and of course the betta macrostoma is beautiful. There's also the betta ornamentalis, or what is it? Ornamentalis. I don't actually. It might be too. There's a few that are really new that are hard to find. There's also Siam orientalis, and these ones have been around a while, but these are really beautiful too. That's a wild guppy, or guppy, brain fart, a wild betta. And here, like I said, like there's a maha chiensis, and look at the like purple and green and blue. It's very, very pretty in the kind of pinkish eye. They're a really neat fish, and there's so many kinds of wild bettas. All these. Let's see here. Let me do something real quick. All right, so these all interbreed with one another, and our betta splendens. That's actually not. That is a terrible picture of a betta splendens. Whoever made this chart doesn't know what they're talking about. Unfortunately, but the bettas with the big tail. That's actually and the Maha chiensis, this is not a wild Maha chiensis because this tail has a slight spade shape, but it's not, it's too full moony. So these are kind of like bred from the wild, but they've been bred for maximum traits. And that's happening right now all over Asia. But like betta stictos, that's another really pretty one that we don't see a ton in the trade, but it's pretty cool. Betta imbelis is a really good one. And betta imbelis and it used to be known as Cambodiensis. The betta that was being bred. Let's see here. Betta Cam. Let's see if the Cambodian betta still comes up like that. Yep, right there. So betta imbelis from the wild in Cambodia, they come out like this. And they came to America in the 1930s, 1938. They landed in San Francisco. And you can see the difference between our full moons now versus this having more of like a paddle tail. And that paddle tail is what evolved into this. And so those pictures, when you're looking at the wild ones that are in the Splendens complex, that picture was disingenuous in that those had been selectively bred. Like there's another wild one, like that's as close to a full moon, quote unquote, tail that you're going to get, but that's what they selected them from originally. But I think some people are going to really want to hold on to some of these pure lines and traits. And there's 93 species of bettas recognized, with more being discovered annually. And also, a lot of their habitat is being completely destroyed. So I think that breeding the sorry guys, I didn't copy. Hold on, guys. All right. So silly browser window opening. So I was saying this is as big of a paddle as you're ever gonna see on the wild ones. That's your half moon. That's the 1938. That and this right here. These are an actual wild Cambodian betta imbolus, and they're incredible looking. Don't get me wrong, but that's not this. That's not this tail. So whenever someone says, "Oh, it's a wild betta," if it's got a tail that's connecting, if it's got a tail that's connecting to the dorsal at all, that's not a natural trait. Here's another one, and these were on this one essentially, and the one we saw before, or the two we just recently saw. Those were the ones that were in the hobby in the 30s. By the 30s, they were in there. And it's kind of interesting because they look really, really similar to the quote unquote alien bettas of today. Yeah, like that, like these alien bettas, they're just Maha chiensis crossed with a wild splendid. So let me see if we can get let me show you what a natural splendid looks like. Because the other problem is these fish have been bred for 1,500 years now. They're figuring. So there you go. That's crossed with the Siamese or ornamentalis, Siam ornamentalis, and the splendens right there, that tail. So when they have bred these fish, like this white one here, or when you see one with the really pointy tail like that, I actually like those tails. That is using the Maha chiensis's natural trait, and probably breeding a lot of Maha chiensis together or betta imbolus together. Betta splendens wild, because they've found that in bettas at like the pet stores, they tend to have at least 3 species in the betta splendens complex. These are the 4 main species. There's charts all over online on it now. But now that they've done the genetic work, they're realizing that almost none of the bettas that come out of the wild are true betta splendens. That looks pretty close to the photos I've seen from the early, like the turn of the century. They're coming out of 2 main pockets, and they've got that beautiful spade tail that for some reason they've turned into the flattened round tail. And instead of the fin that's much more a spade shape too, with this paddle or spade shape here, like both of those being spades, they've kind of tried to get rid of that in the domestic betta lines. So I think these, because they look different than what we're used to seeing, the novelty of that in the fish world will make a big difference. And here's like Dan's fish, and he's got, here, let me pull this up so you guys can see it too. Dan's fish, he's gotten in some stuff that's pretty cool. He gets in some really rare stuff, but he's got the betta cochina and that, yeah. But then he's also got a wild betta embolus there with the standard colors. Um, he's brought in a lot of these bettas actually, and you can see how a lot of them are pretty subdued until they're spawning. Um, but when they're spawning, they are insane, and some of them are pretty cool all the time. But um, definitely, noticeable when they're spawning versus when they're not yet spawning. Um, so while we're here at Dan's Fish, let's talk about another fish that I think will be a hot ticket item this year. I think Medaka fish, everything that we've said about guppies can be true for Medaka also. I think that they're going to be very popular. They're going to keep gaining popularity. The price has got to come down because the price is ridiculous right now. You used to be able to get like 2 or 3 rice fish for $1 5 years ago. They weren't crazy rare types, but you could get them. Let's see here. What was I looking for? Oh, right. So the other thing that I think, and let me come look at the chat once more for a moment, guys. Make sure that I'm keeping up with y'all. Let's see here. Can you guys, wait, hang in there. Arkansas, 100-gallon tub, pond doing well, thin layer of ice, rice, fish, and plants looking good. Oh, nice. Well, you're breeding the right thing, right? Yep. Wild bettas, CPDs, pseudomcgills, rice fish, rare cories. I agree. Those are all great things to breed. The other thing is, just because you see cories for, say, $30 for the Equus, that doesn't mean that we need to charge that much to other hobbyists necessarily. That's when you have a store and you have to manage all that. If you are a breeder and you're selling stuff to stores, you're only going to be getting $10 for that 30. And that's best case scenario. That's Dan's Fish level. And that's shipped and everything. So really you're going to be eating like $8 for that. So do you want to get the $8 or do you want to sell it locally for 15 or $20, make someone's day and bring the price down? It does bring the price down much lower than a lot of times local fish shops are going to have. But to be honest, I don't think a lot of local fish shops are going to. I don't think they're going to be hurting because of that. Because yeah, Dan's Fish is 25% landed. Yes, correct. Which is, it's like threefold, for the fish, but then you include the shipping. Yeah, so landed is 25%. But if you're selling to the local fish stores, it's rough. It's rough. And I don't think, Andrea, I don't think that Tenectes minnows, white clouds and stuff. I think maybe some of the really long fin and like yellow color varieties and stuff, those will be, I think, worth some money and worth selling. But I don't think the other ones will bring much more than $5 or $6 locally at best to hobbyists if you're selling them straight to hobbyists. And really, I think the goal if you're breeding fish is you got to make over like $8 a fish to be making good money. When you think about all the food that goes into the fish, the electricity, all of that, otherwise it's fine to just breed fish to help offset your costs. But if you're trying to like actually make some money, some side money, wow, your Equus are $14.99. That's a killer deal. Mr. Octopus, that's not necessarily true. Fish stores do make money off fish if they're doing things right, um, or by some hobbyists wrong. Redfish, bluefish, they don't sell any other supplies, and that's my buddy Jason. He just imports from uh, just from Europe, and he makes good money. I probably shouldn't disclose the details. Maybe I'll have him on the show sometime, and he can disclose it if he feels like it. He's pretty open, but I don't want to talk about that money kind of stuff. But let me just say, he is supporting an entire business and import business off of that, and he doesn't really sell medications or food or anything like that. He marks things up 3 to 4 times, but he doesn't have the overhead of a big store. He has it on his property, essentially, a big warehouse barn, like an outbuilding. Freaky Fish Lady, what's going on? Holly, how are you doing? Kubatai, or Kubota, however you want to say it, Resboras, I think they're great. I think if you want to breed them, that's fine. And I also think that like things like chili rasboras and exclamation point rasboras, phoenix rasboras, I would love to buy from someone locally and pay $3 or $4 more than I pay at the fish store to have good quality, well fed, not anemic looking fish, with nice clear eyes that aren't foggy and bellies that aren't sunken in on every third fish. And just crazy beautiful colors. So I think that with some of the rasboras, yeah, you could sell them, but it's going to have to be a niche thing, and you're not going to be making big money off of them. A lot of people go straight for plecos because they see the money, but they don't think about how much you spend in giving them fresh canned beans, and then you feed them anti-deworming and antibacterials and anti-parasitics. There's so many things that can cost money that go into all that. Boots and caps and boots and caps and boots and caps. What's up? Many bids. No. So that's a great question. So I have some guppies that were more expensive than other varieties I've seen, but at auctions, guppies as a whole don't get many bids. Do I price them for what I pay? No. So that's the sad truth of it. Unless you're in just the right climate, you're not going to, an economic climate that is, you don't want to, you don't want to, you don't want to be selling things for what you paid for your brood stock, because ideally, your brood stock's going to be the best of the best. That's what you want to start with. Then you're going to have to cull some of it probably and either hold it back or get rid of it or sell it at a reduced price to someone else or to a fish store. But it is, yeah. Wait, I'm just trying to read this. To be able to see rare fish in person and pick the ratios they want rather than pay $50 overnight and ship. That's my entire business model at my shop. Yeah, I mean, and that's fair, especially if you've got unusual and unique stuff. Then I think that makes plenty of sense. I don't want to pay the shipping on Dan's fish, but when I need breeding stock and nobody else in town or anywhere for that matter, even on the internet, nobody else a lot of times has what I want, then I'm going to pay that extra money, even if the fish are kind of a crazy price, especially if they're Livebearers, for instance. That's why I'm saying I think these wild Livebearers are a really good idea to breed this year because they're starting to get more attention. Things like Goodyids have been in National Geographic, and the Goodyids and those kinds of fish, little Lamias, Pictus swamp guppies, which I think are a beautiful little fish. The Jamaican little Livebearers and stuff like that. I think those are wonderful. The pygmy swordtails, really cool. And also the Cuban lamias, which those are all on the screen right now from Dan's Fish. And say you get a couple pairs of those, and you're paying, even if you're paying, I mean, some of them are pretty darn expensive. Now, I don't know if I would pay $59 or $79 for some of these, but literally, if you've looked for a while and you know that's maybe I'd say 20 to 25% above like what market might be, and you know that the source is going to be good, then I'll go for it a lot of times. But if it's more than that, I wouldn't. Now, fish clubs are another like pivotal resource for this kind of stuff. And the fact that they're live bearers, though, is they're going to be reproducing quickly, usually. Not all live bearers, but most. And that means let me read your long-winded message. No, it's okay. I got part of it. Louise, which shop is yours? Are you somewhere out near me? You're mentioning that you are. And Nathan, you said, Alex, do you know the breeding behavior signs of Amicus splendens? Do the males do that little vibrating shaky things like Mbuna do? Yeah, the Amicus splendens, almost all live bearers do the shimmy shake, and they also do the T-boning or the picking at the underside of the other. And then usually most wild live bearers, a lot of times the domesticated lines have kind of forgotten this, but it's really magical. And I've seen it in Florida several times. I've seen it with platies, with sword fins, or sword tails rather, and wild sailfin mollies. And what that is that in the morning, as the sun's coming through the jungle trees, or the canopy of the forest, the fish do a parade, and it is so cool. I've never seen it in the aquarium, but I have seen it now several times in the wild, now that I'm paying attention and looking for it. And it is, oh, hey Mel, you're starting the stream all over. Well, you could just hang out with us now and then start it later, but okay. But yeah, so they get in this line and they do a little parade, and the males are all in the sunlight of the early morning, angular sun low on the horizon, so they sparkle like beautifully. I've got video of this that I should share. And then onto the side, the females are in the shadow, and I don't think they need to be in the shadow, but they happen to be the spots that I saw. And they're kind of hanging out away from where predators would be or whatever. And the males are risking their safety going out and showing off like this. And they basically start going out first. One or two go out and do the shimmy shake, the little dance, the little vibrating dance. And then they'll swim up the current of the creek or whatever. And then another one will follow. And then one or two, and they'll start kind of like twirling around with each other and basically doing a big show for the females in the morning. And then later in the day, they'll get closer and closer. And throughout the afternoon and midday, they're kind of trying to get an individual's attention. But the females decide, according to studies, usually based on the morning. Now, the females in live bears, and they've studied it with guppies and a number of other live bears, but the females can mate with 3 or 4 males and store that, we'll call it DNA for the live stream. They can store that, and there's actually a really complex reaction that goes on where they're able to essentially put a ball and chain on the little sperms. So if there's a male that is showing off for the ladies, and all of a sudden he gets taken out by a fish because he wasn't that quick, but he looked really good or something, it causes a stress hormone in the female, and she can essentially remember her body does, which mating incident that was from. And the cortisol or stress hormone will release these other hormones that essentially slow down the locomotion of the tail of the sperm. So those sperm don't have as good of chance making it to the egg when they're spawning, which is kind of mind-blowing. So she can mate, and if you know live bears, they can hold on to that material for like a year or two, up to 8 spawns they've seen in the laboratory of live bears that have only had contact with a male one time. It's usually more like 3 or 4, but it's pretty wild. Wow, Nathan, you just got 20 plus purple Moscow guppies at your meeting for $6. That is insane. I am very jealous. Yeah. You're in Pennsylvania. Okay, elite. Fixing the father fish go out to the pond and fill your tank with parasite stuff. Oh boy. Yeah, I get along with Lou. I'm friends with him, but I don't do things the same way as him. I do get live cultures from ponds in my area, but I have a protocol, and let me just clarify that now, because people keep asking. I have videos where I say it, but I say it at the end of the video, in hopes that that's the thing they'll want to know, so they'll watch to the end. But in most cases, it's just like, oh, that's the thing that's farthest in, and I lose my attention. Click off. Gonna watch things blow up or whatever people watch. Yeah, and him saying that he never said that is crap, because he did. He said you should go get the muckiest leaves from the bottom of a pond and throw them in your tank. And I said, hey, wait a minute. And I even made a video right after he said that, thinking this is going to be trouble for me and my friends and, store owners and stuff when a bunch of people do this. And you can do that with a native fish tank or with a tank where you're not going to put fish in for a while and you just want to see what the microfauna is. Like, that's fine. That's a cool experiment. Or to keep a jar on the shelf and just see what it does for like a year sealed, the resurrection jar things. That's what those are supposed to be. But, it's good that he did walk it back, I guess, but the damage has kind of been done. And the other thing is that, you don't know what parasites are in the water when you've got fish that are from Southeast Asia, for instance, like bettas or something, or rasboras or Daniels, whatever it is. And you're in, I don't know, Kansas. Like, you think that anything is going to be the same about that water? There might be nitrifying bacteria, there might be Daphnia, there might be seed shrimp. There's a few things that could be the same, but are they even going to live in your aquarium? That's kind of the tough part. So forget pests for a moment, but say you just want to bring those things in and have them flourish, which I understandably get. I can see why you would want to inoculate your tank with the stuff that kind of shows up after 5 years, that kind of accidentally gets in your tank, that comes in on plants, that comes in from plant nurseries or fish that have eaten eggs of some sort of little critter and then they pass them. So what I say is that, that basically you get the stuff that you're thinking of putting in your tank, you put it in a jar, You put something that is breathable, because you don't want to make it an anoxic environment, or anaerobic or anything. So you could even throw an air stone in a bucket or a jar of what you're getting. Now, I wouldn't suggest what he did, which is a stagnant pond or lake, like whatever is sitting still and getting the dead leaves. I would actually recommend the opposite, which is finding flowing water, or something where water's flowing into it, because it's going to be more oxygenated. And also, you're not going to get things like tapeworms and leeches as much, which tend to be living in that muddy, murky, dead leaf material. So I actually say the exact opposite. Now, with using flowing water and maybe some stones with some algae and some pieces of wood that are, a foot or two offshore, I can definitely see where you can take that, you can put it in your fish room. And if your fish room is at temperature like mine, that means like you would have your jar or your tank, your bucket, whatever, at about 75 degrees. So now we're going to see how many of those local things can even live at 75 degrees Fahrenheit. And once, hey, Skipper, what's going on, buddy? Good to see you. And Cara, good to see you too. Nancy B, good to see you. So once you get that in there, then you're going to see what's going to survive. Now, I think there's two ways to go about the next step. And my personal opinion is to, you can take a pipette or a turkey baster and you can get a sample of the water. It's best if you have a microscope to make sure there's not a million eggs of some terrible parasite or whatever. But you're also waiting for mosquitoes to hatch, dragonfly larvae to crawl out of a leaf or a log or whatever, tapeworms or leeches or nematodes that are in their small form that may grow. Turning up the temperature will both speed up their metabolism. And so what I say is put, a pinch of food flakes in there, maybe once a week at most, just a teeny tiny bit, not much, otherwise you'll foul the water. But then you'll know, what's going on in there. And then you can take your pipette and say, okay, I see Daphnia, I see seed shrimp, I see little water beetles, and maybe you want those, maybe you don't. Some are, some bite, some are not nice. So you can go as crazy as you want. Maybe you have a pond, you want little water striders and stuff like that. I wouldn't want that in my aquarium. And so you're getting the little bugs and the babies that are also in that environment. So that's what I say, is either culture one at a time from those jars or from a pond out in your backyard, the things that you know what they are and you want them in your ecosystem. And ideally do it before you put your fish in, if you're really going to take time to do this, so that their population can reach a tipping point, essentially, where, just like I'm saying, when you're breeding fish for profit, just like when you want to make a tank sustainable for your fish, or even just like the fact that there's going to be a snack around, like if you put blood or blackworms in your substrate, you're going to need to put a lot of blackworms in there, and then you're going to need to let them like chill and get to their like maximum potential. And then fish are going to take that number down, and maybe some survive. And if you're really lucky, maybe they, figure out how to hide in the deep substrate, and a few babies survive at a time and they hatch. Scuds, for instance, that's something some fish will hunt down and eat every single one very quickly. But if you leave them for a few weeks ahead of time, scuds will have babies that will hide in the substrate. And very young scuds can reproduce, and they will stay in your tank. Now, if you have certain things like, if you're keeping rainbow fish fry, or you're keeping baby shrimp in those tanks, you don't want scuds in there. They're going to be a pest. They're going to be very bad. Yep, damselfly nymphs. Yep. So, there's all sorts of things like that. Mayflies, damselflies,
What do I think of the new orange LEDs and aquarium lights? I don't know exactly what you're talking about, actually. Yeah, boots and cats. You're having trouble identifying even with a microphone or microscope. I was gonna say microphone won't help you, um, but uh, watch the series The Microcosms or Journey to the Microcosms. I think it's a Hank Green YouTube channel. SciShow and all that stuff that they do. They have all those other shows. Um, so yeah. They go over quite a few, and then that you can Google a chart to. Well, let's see if we can find it right now. Googly eyes. What was I gonna say? Pond life, microfauna. Yeah, okay. So hold on, let me copy this where you guys can see it. Where's my mouse? There's my mouse. Okay. Okay. Here's the earth round. Okay, so check this out. Well, that would have probably been a better search term. I misspelled it the first time. But there's lots of charts you can find, and if you go to googlescholar.com or Google Scholar, you search for Google Scholar, it'll take you and you can get a lot of papers that have the illustrations even closer. Some are actual photos, but here, it'll tell you, okay, here's all your nymphs and larvae and stuff like that. Here's like your stentors and your amoebas and your little mites and your tardigrades and water bears, your rotifers, your nematodes, which are generally, I mean, we need nematodes, don't get me wrong, but they're also um, some of the worst pests in the hobby too. It's a double-edged sword. But yeah, and then there's keys too, like pond life identification key. Um, Schools and universities have these where it'll say like, is it round? Does it have arms? Does it have like little flagella, little spindly things moving on it? Does it have an eye? Does it have, um, is it oval or oblong? And then you turn the page, and they're like, it helps you process of elimination, figure out what is what. And it is pretty hard though to figure out what species you have specifically once you narrow it down to one of the things there. Now I've done videos where I've gone and I've shown what's in my aquarium mulm and stuff after a year or two. And I think that that's pretty cool and fun, but I also think that it would be neat to go show what's in the ponds that are now 2 years on my property. Um, oh, nice. He's got micro worm starter cultures for $10. I need that. Oh, okay, guys. So I'm trying to figure out, this is totally beside the point of breeding for profit. Um, oh, I want these so bad too. These red-tailed hillstream loaches. They're just so much money. $70, can't do it. But um, my like, I will pay $150 for a fish if I think I'll be able to breed it. But I can't if I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to breed that. I'm just going to look at it and it's going to be purty. Uh, Especially if I don't know how long it's going to even live. I mean, I'm guessing 3 to 7 years. I know that's a range, but that's kind of what the SWs are kind of ranging. But the geos. So I got a 65-gallon tank outside right now. and it's gonna get it's replacing my bow front, and I want to do geos in it, but I haven't owned geos before. This is the one I'm looking at, I think. Yeah, Altasinu. Um, there or Sino. There is no information on this darn river, um, which is really frustrating. Um, like trying to find out what else is in this river is the hardest river I've ever come across. I could find out what's in like a Namibian river faster. I don't know why. It's been in Colombia where there is the presence of some pretty scary militants and stuff, but still, I mean, I don't know. It seems silly. Uh, all right, so let me show you what these look like when they're spawning. So I'm thinking about getting these, and obviously I'll probably try to spawn them too. But when they are spawning, this is what they look like. Holy cannoli! Isn't that pretty? The nuchal hump. Sometimes they get even more of a hump. But I'm trying to decide if I want like those are supposed to be pretty peaceful, or if I want like um one of the others. So if you guys have any recommendations for which of the geos I should get, I would love to hear it. Skipper, all right, man, you have a good one, brother. I'm only here for the nanofish and Mexican crawdads. Yeah, they're illegal in my state, the crawdads. Um, and I think I wish cichlid spawning was more productive and more rewarding, but it just isn't. Uh, like you can sell a few to people, and unless it's a cichlid that everyone's heard of or that everybody wants, or you're willing to ship it out or sell it like wholesale and for very little money, that's really all you can do. Like I had some, for instance, Lake Turkana cichlids, and those things. The first batch I sold and I made, $50 a pair off of them. And I was like, sweet, these grew up in 6 months and they're incredibly beautiful. And they're they're a really cool fish. They're rare. They're CITES fish, or Cares fish, I mean. And then not even the same spawn. Another week or two goes by and nobody's answering the ads I put out. And then I have to bring them to the fish club. And the first week or first month at the fish club, they bring, something like, I don't know, something like probably $30 for like 5 or 6 of them in a group because they weren't sexed yet. They were still babies. And then after that, I couldn't even sell them. And I was having groups of 200 to 300 babies a month. And that is like the curse of spawning a rare cichlid, is that, you'll have a few people that are be willing to pay maybe even more than you did for them and are stoked on it. And then most people are not going to. Now, the internet's kind of changed that, which is interesting. I feel like people like KG or Corey or even Father Fish now, maybe, if they were to like say, oh, you need this fish, this is a cool fish, then I think there might be a fad long enough or big enough that then you could take advantage of it by breeding something. But yeah. Oh, let's see here. Renice Nugent Hello, I'm very scared of putting new plants in my aquarium. How do you sterilize them? I've deeped Java fern. Oh, dipped Java fern in peroxide. Well, that would be plenty. Um, if it survives it. Sometimes people do that and it kills their plants. If you diluted it enough, then it should be fine. People use bleach, they use peroxide, they use like soda ash. Is it? Um, so there's all sorts of things people use to treat the plants. But honestly, I just prefer to get things from sources I trust. And I will put them in my aquarium. And there could be snail eggs or, something in there. But usually, anybody around here in Seattle, there's no like tropical anything that's gonna be out in the wild that's gonna get onto some plant and then get into my tank. In theory, there could be little things like um, planaria or something like that, I suppose. But I feel like you do have the curse of, yeah, alum. Thank you. That's the other one that I was thinking of. It's pretty mellow on the plants. Yeah. And there's lots of recipes online, but I wouldn't sweat it. Moral of the story is that other than snails, most people aren't getting a whole lot from the plants. I don't think. I mean, there's an exception to every rule or to everything I'm saying, of course, but yeah, I don't think so. Discus and Oscars, those are cichlids that are popular enough that I think you can breed them and make some money. Um, you just need to calculate how much time and effort and money you're spending on spawning them because at the end of the day you may be feeding them quality foods and all sorts of stuff that is very expensive. And if you can only get say $30 a fish or even like $15 a fish wholesale, 15 to 25 a discus, that's brutal. Um, Ingus says maybe you have to think breeder versus buyer. People are interested in rare cichlids, often to breed them as well, compared to selling beginner fish like a Livebearer rice fish. Yeah, definitely. I agree with that. What's my opinion on colorful mystery snails and other snails? There does seem to be a market for that. I must say. I don't quite get it personally. I just don't like mystery snails. They make a mess. People say, "Oh, they don't eat plants. That's apple snails." Sorry, I've seen mystery snails eat the crowns of delicate plants. They're not going to eat all your plants probably, and they're going to eat anything else like fish food first. But that being said, I've seen them eat the crowns of delicate, like Limnophilia hippodroides or um, a Rotala Ramosior or Ludwigia chai, stuff like that. I've seen them eat. Uh, yeah. Beast, that's definitely true. Even if you get 200 to 400 fry, you have to have time to nurse them. Yeah, yeah, you can't have a full-time job if you're doing what it takes to take care of some of those fish. Yeah, that's for sure. Do I think it's cruel to keep 6 Pseudomagil furcatus in a 6-gallon planted cube? Not really. I'd like to see them in a bigger tank, a longer tank, ideally, like a 6-gallon bookshelf tank would be fine. Um, but honestly, like you do you. They're a fish that they'll cruise across a 120-gallon tank, a little tiny fish like that. They'll shoot across the tank. But most of the day, they're actually just kind of chilling in a corner, just kind of treading water. And if you got flow in the cube of some sort, I think you could make it so that it's not a terrible situation for them. You want to give them enough room so that if you imagine they're a little truck or a little car, that they could turn around 360, because they're going to want to do their show off thing with their fins. And so I think it's mean to keep them in a tank that's too small for them to be able to do that. So as long as there's enough room in the planted area, like there's some area where they've got enough room to twirl around with each other and show off, then I think you'll be fine. And you'll probably be able to find the eggs very quickly in a tank that size. Yeah, in Europe, the mystery snails are banned in the hobby. Yeah, so are glowfish in most of Europe, but I still see them in a lot of Europe. People breeding them out of their homes in Europe. Do I have tips on breeding rare South American tetras? Research. Some tetras are going to be completely seasonal. And so that's when you need to do little things like wait for an ancestris or a corydorus or a angelfish that you keep, or an episto that you keep, something that's a South American fish, ideally, that's from the same area even. And once those are spawning, you put that water into the tank of your tetras. You don't put the fish in, you put the water with the hormones. And the other thing I would say is that you, as like a trick for the rare tetras, this goes for anything though. You really should have food for the babies ready before the babies show up. So while you're priming the adults, while you're feeding them high protein diets and splitting up the females and males, if you want to do that, which usually if you can, that will give you better odds because they'll be really excited to see each other. But you want, even if they are a fish that eats, maybe brine shrimp is the smallest thing they would eat, you want infusoria in their tank so that the babies would be able to eat that right away. Because even if the parents don't really eat it, it's too small for them or it's not worth their time, they are waiting to see the conditions in the aquarium, in the water, that says these babies will be supported. Because it's an extremely dangerous proposition, evolutionarily speaking, to use up all that energy of having babies as a fish, to spend the calories and to get big and round and then lay eggs or whatever it may be. The calorie increase and having to graze that much extra to get bigger. Yeah, it's definitely something that when you take anthropology classes or evolutionary biology, we look at that a lot, like how many calories were used to get food, because it doesn't make sense to go, chase down a deer for dinner if you had to chase it, and throwing a spear and carrying it home and all that stuff took, 2,800 calories, yet you only got 2,400 calories out of the meat. But the same thing is true with like reproduction, and it's not as clear of an equation where it has to just be more than the amount spent. But most fish, except for like salmon and things, they just need to reproduce the once the salmon do. So they're willing to give it all. They'll give up all their calories for it. But with fish that will spawn repeative years, they won't give it all. So they need to, if they think that I am like, there's not the right hormones in the water, the TDS isn't getting softer, the temperature isn't getting cooler, the flow of the water isn't different. Another thing you can do is you can take an aquarium and set it up, and you want one that's like 6.0 and one that's like 6.5 and one that's full of tannins and one that's like barely got tannins, for instance, and take like half of the water out of one of the tanks and replace it with the water from the other tank. And that simulates, after the rain has fallen and that you do your water change to simulate the dry season, a lot of times oxbow lakes and little cutoff areas that have fish in them in the dry season reconnect to the main channel of a river. And it's through that they sense the different change in conductivity of the water. They smell new species. They smell, mud and all sorts of different things. And those are all cues biologically that can help them spawn. And some of the really tricky to spawn fish are only going to spawn when they think that the actual season has changed. And it may biologically mean that their bodies can only do it once or twice a year. Whereas, CPDs or, yeah, exactly, Danios, they can do it every few days, And so fish like that, you can kind of gradually spawn and raise whenever. But there are cories or certain other fish, pistos. Some of them don't spawn any other time than like right when the wet season is starting and the dry season ends. That's usually the time. So the other thing you can do is you can open up your windows and wait for a storm to come in. And I know that sounds crazy, but wait for a big rainstorm to come in where the millibars drop like more than 10 millibars is great. That's enough to simulate, the rainy season starting. So that would be a great time. What I do is I let my tanks evaporate with the light on for long hours, so like 15 hours a day or 12 hours a day. And the light's fairly warm, like a Fluval 3.0. And on like a 20 gallon long, I'll let it evaporate to half the height. A lot of these fish want to spawn in shallow water too because it's safer. And that's why there are the lightning effects too. Yeah, because it when the thunderstorms start, that is the cue of the wet season. Now, I don't know if there's any literature. I haven't seen any backing up that the lightning in particular triggers fish. But ozone and petrichor, basically the smell of rain and the smell of soil and rain combining, that specific chemical, humans can smell that like in the parts per billions, but there's some fish that can smell it in the parts per trillions. Like walking catfish, they can get up out of the water and sniff the air and then figure out, okay, a mile that way is the next body of water or a river. Near any waterfall, any rapids, anything where the surface tension of the water is breaking and you're getting splashing, you're going to get ions. And the same is true of thunderstorms. Same is true. Ozone is the other chemical, but petrichor and ozone. And you can do that with cake. Nice. But yeah, so a lot of fish to them, and that's the signal of, oh, it's the monsoons are starting, the wet season's back, So those are all tricks that I think will help with your tetra breeding. Because yeah, sure, rare tetras, that's a great thing to breed, especially the colorful ones. It's worth noting that you may not be able to sell a $30 to $50 fish to many people. But if you're either willing to compromise more on the price, like if you paid $30 or $40 for the fish, maybe you'd be willing to sell it for 10. I bet you could sell a lot of some tetras locally. Yeah. So you can make ozone, but be careful if you do lung damage. Yeah, I'm not going to recommend making ozone in in your house. Let's just leave it at that. But you will naturally make some water ions if you just like run a faucet or like drip a bucket, like pour a bucket into your aquarium from up high. Naturally, that will make some. It'll also probably make your tank muddy. Now, that's an aspect I've never heard talked about. Some of these things are just things that personally I believe, and they're kind of pseudoscience-y, and I don't know that they're that important. But to me, they're all things that change, that fish have evolved sensory organs to specifically track and keep track of. So I think it's worth a shot, and I'd be interested to see what anybody else's results are. But guys, I think I'm going to call it a afternoon, and I've had a good time chatting with you guys. We didn't get through all the stuff there is that we could talk about, but I think as far as summarizing what we talked about, the guppies you can view from above, guppies that are pure color lines or that are just a stunning new a new line that's just hasn't been in the hobby and looks really nice. I think those will be great. I think wild Livebearers are going to be a really good call, especially the endangered ones and things. People are wanting to get involved with preserving these species. And on that note, I think killifish and pupfish that are from like Europe would be a great thing too. There's a lot that are going extinct, especially like Spanish ones. There's some in Nevada and Alabama. So, top minnows, pupfish, killifish, whatever you want to call them, those are all good things to try breeding, I think, too. Yep, in Denmark, pure strain guppies sell like hot butter. It makes sense. I mean, because anybody who's really trying to make a strain, they want to know that those genetics are solid, I have a video on coolie loaches. Here's a trick, guys. I learned this. I don't know if it's always been this way or what. But you go the @ symbol and then type Fishtory and then type any other phrase that you want to find. So if it's coolie loaches, it's @ Fishtory and then breeding coolie loaches or whatever. And it will bring up my videos with that theme. Whereas if you just did breeding coolie loaches, it might bring up a bunch of maybe not that relevant videos. But if you go to @ Fishtory and then say, or coolie loach care, or whatever. Yeah. Sunfish, yeah. No, I think native fish are going to continue to get more and more popular as well. So I think native fish will be a big deal. Guppies you can see from above, guppies that are pure lines genetic wise, and then guppies that are just a really cool look, a really interesting style. Those will continue to be popular. And goodyids, different like lamias, things like little picta guppies or picta swamp guppies as they're called, Posiliata, wild Posiliata, Zophophorus, any of those genuses. Least killifish in Florida. Should I breed them? Yes. I know people who paid $10 for those up here in Seattle. Now, you might need to sell them on some place like Vivi.com or Get Gills or Dan. What's not Dan's Fish? Get Gills. I guess Aquabid is another option that still does exist, but yeah. And I think, like we also mentioned, rice fish. I think they'll get more popular because there's a lot of color varieties coming out that are really cool. Arb-1, thank you so much for the super chat, my friend. Been missing seeing Bararis at the store. I know. I saw some Sundadanio axelrod eyes that are the blue ones, and that's basically all I ever see. I haven't seen any of the red or the rubulus or the ruber ones in a long time. I just haven't seen many of those, but they're very cool. And I think they're going to find out there's a lot more species than we think there are. But Borneo is getting just decimated right now, logging wise, and foreign investment doing strip mining and just ignoring the laws and stuff. Yeah. Beast, you're saying rice fish are also pretty hot in Denmark right now. Cool. What's the other place called? Morph Market is another place to sell fish. Thanks, Mark. Mr. Killifish breeder extraordinaire. All right, guys. Well, I'm getting tired. I'm getting worn out, unfortunately. But thank you so much for hanging out and for chatting about the fish we could be spawning in the next year. We might continue this talk later after now that we mentioned all these ones that are kind of low investment barrier to get into, hopefully, and high yield. We can talk about some of the other options, things like discus and stuff that, if you pick your pigeons right, you'll have a dove. Drifter's Workshop. Yeah, I'm sorry you're just getting here, but yeah, you probably will have to catch the replay. Yeah, you guys, you're so welcome. And yes, I hope you guys all have a wonderful night. Take care of your critters, take care of your plants, take care of the people around you, and of course, take care of yourself. Self-care. Or you can't do any of those other things. You can't take care of any of those things. So take it easy, guys. And I'm out. I will see you all again shortly. Oh, and one more little shout out is Anthony Mazeral's nonprofit Arkoff, the Amazon Research Center for Ornamental Fish. They are doing an annual fundraiser right now at arkoff.org. Is it arkoff.org? Let me look it up real quick. I want to make sure I say the right thing. No, so let's see. Is Amazon Research Center for Ornamental Fish. Dr. Anthony had to pick the longest name because he's Dr. Anthony. All right, let's see here. Oh, wait. Okay. So there's a Facebook page that then will take you. Oh, okay. It's Amazon Research Center.org. And this is the aquarium of the Amazon. And they're doing a fundraiser. Today's the very last day. And I didn't get the Yeti for Christmas. I just bought it for myself a few days ago. But I am digging it. Hopefully it'll make voiceovers better. I'll probably get the hang of it over time, right? And guys, if you haven't hit the like button, I would appreciate it if you did so on the way out. Don't let the door hit you. Yeah, so there is the link. Why didn't it hot link? Whatever. But the link is essentially just go to www.amazonresearchcenter.org if you want to check it out. They do great work down there teaching the locals how to sustainably assess whether a fish run is going to be sustainable at whichever amount of harvesting, as well as pollution and other things that cause the fish not to live as long. And then they'll say, okay, well, these are the 20 species that ideally you guys should be catching and or raising. And they'll say, keep catching these ones, but only catch X amount. And of the other ones, we can teach you how to farm your fish in pens and grow them all year round and hold on to them all year round, so that they're worth way more money to the exporters when they're healthy, rather than just coming in after being out for 2 weeks in a dugout canoe or whatever with an air pump. Yeah. So Nancy B in Tennessee said the guy who called his channel The Secret History Living in Your Aquarium. Yeah, I do like names that are too long, you're right? I shouldn't give Dr. Anthony any crap. But yeah, so and then the idea there is also to empower the locals in Peru, in the Amazon, where Dr. Mazaral is. The idea is they're going to open a research center for grad students and professors around the world to come use for basically paying room and board and helping to do chores, or you can pay and skip the chores. And then the locals in the area will be able to attend workshops and things for free, basically. And the local school kids and things are going to be able to go in and look at some massive aquariums that are going to keep some of the coolest fish that are found in the waters that are literally not even a mile away, like less than a kilometer away. So only like a third of a mile away from their research center. So it's a pretty cool spot. And I want to go down there and visit it pretty bad. But they're up to good work there. And yeah, it's time for a nap. Exactly. Cave of Wonders. All right, guys. Take care. Have a wonderful night.